I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I don't think anything can compare to Tomy or Trackmaster. Or Playrail, we'll throw that in. Not recently, definitely not recently. And thinking about Trackmaster, while its big thing may be things like Action Canyon, I would argue Tomy made something just as, if not, technically cooler. And that was the Ultimate set, but we're not talking about that today. And that was the Steam Along Thomas. Now, if you had this toy, I don't have to explain anything to you. A metallic blue Tomy Thomas that's steamed with a red LED in the funnel. It sounds awesome. And trust me, as a toy, it was. The only thing I didn't like about it as a kid was the fact that Annie had to be connected to it. And honestly, it's understandable why. Of course, I didn't really know this until later, but the smoke mechanism inside of Thomas was a fairly simple but pretty complex one, and you simply couldn't fit that along with a battery inside of him. Annie was pretty much essential to that steaming part. So imagine my sadness when my Steam Along Thomas doesn't steam. The Annie thankfully worked so it could still move, but Thomas completely lost all steaming capability, probably due to a short wire or something like that. But it also gave me a thought and the perfect opportunity to do something I've always wanted to do. Make that Thomas on the front a solo runner. It's not a big deal that Thomas had Annie. Like I said, that was essential to the steaming aspect. But now that the steaming thing doesn't work, you know, that body looks oddly close to Thomas in the Magic Row. You get where I'm going with this. Pretty quickly, I took the entire thing apart and tried to fit it to a normal Tomy chassis. Naturally, this would take some modification though. Most notably taking out the Dremel and going crazy on the inside of this guy. On both sides of the tank, there were screw areas that had to be completely removed. The cab roof itself had to be trimmed down just a little bit, and as you'll soon see, the back of the cab doesn't have a window area anymore because that had to be removed too. Thankfully, however, the electronics themselves were on the chassis part and in the smoke box, which would later be replaced too. So once that was done came the scariest and hardest part, making the switch compartment. Now, thankfully, now that it's over and worked out, I can say it wasn't too bad, but during doing this, it was just terrifying. Basically, I just took a Dremel and made 2 incisions on either side, and then used a pin vise to cut that out, then using a file to smooth out the area. And it's still not the most smooth, I guess. I could have done a little bit better, but once it was done, so was I. I was not risking messing up this entire thing. I had already lost its steam capability, I wasn't losing the shell too. I also at this point decided to do the normal modifications I would do to anything. I did what Tomy should have done and painted the chassis block black, gave him his white running board, and then painted on the extra smoke box details and his lamp irons. The wheels would be a bit more complicated, shall we say. For this, I had to go to a local hobby shop, and luckily found a new Tamiya color, that being PS49. This is a metallic color, and those are not things I normally work with, but it was thankfully pretty simple to use. Basically, you get that in a can of TS5, which is their normal black, apply that as a primer, and then the blue on top of it. This worked tremendously well, and though it doesn't always show up on camera, the blues matched way more than I ever expected them to. Now, to me, this Thomas has a Thomas and the Magic Railroad feel. I guess it's just the darker blue, and I hope to use this Thomas for purposes in that aspect. For that reason, I decided to cut out a cab door, this being on the same side Mr. C enters Thomas in the movie. And you may be picking up where I'm going with this. I'm planning to put a Mr. C in his cab. So technically, I can't call this Thomas done, at least until I have him in there. But with that complete, all I had to do was add his coal bunker, which is not accurate to Thomas and the Magic Railroad, but in something I just wanted to do, whatever. Reassembled the entire thing and gave it a coat of matte clear. Now, I just realized I forgot to talk about the smoke box and why I changed that. Now, the original Steam Along smoke box had not only a lot in it that allowed it to steam in the first place, but also a bit bulkier and a bit longer than, say, the normal one you'd find on a standard Tomy Thomas. While part of me wanted to see if I could make this Thomas steam with a battery in it, it ultimately ended up being easier to just take the original Tomy smoke box that came with this chassis and the original Thomas and use that. So I took the face from the Steam Along and put that on the old Thomas smoke box, fit that to the chassis, and believe it or not, that is the only bit that is glued down. The main body itself comes off so I can actually put batteries in and out of him, and currently is held down with a bit of blue tack. I'm hoping to design a piece that'll fit in the back and make it just a bit more secure, since I basically had to get rid of each and every whole compartment to make this work. Like I said, I even had to take out the back of his cab as a whole. This just to make it flush with the running board, so It's small prices to pay, I guess. Like I said, it was broken anyway, so this isn't something I'm too ashamed of. The way I see it, I gave new life to a broken model, and made a toy something that I can actually call a model. Or maybe not, it's just a Tomy. Like I said, these aren't projects I like to take too seriously. This all is just for fun. And thankfully, I can call this a success not only because it worked out, but because it was just that, a blast to do. It may have been terrifying trying to paint match that body, which, just follow what I said. The TS49 is probably as close as you're gonna get. That is, if you're going the TATMR route, I just choose to. But if you have a broken Steam along and ever had this idea, give it a shot, because it's really not as hard as we thought it was. I like to say if I can do it, literally anyone can, and that's because it's true. If I can make this work, I can guarantee you can do just as well, if not better. And I guess with all of that being said, that brings us to where Thomas is now. Probably my current favorite in my trackmaster Tomy Playrail collection. Not only in the building process, but to see run. The idea of giving this old toy new life, at least to me, it paid off. And now I kind of feel like I've done a bit too much talking. Ladies and gentlemen, with all of that being said, let's let him do the talking. I'm proud to announce he works beyond well. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe for even more train content. There's always more stuff on the way. And really quick, I'd like to give a huge thank you and shout out to my patrons. Not only for the loyal and generous support, but for making videos like this possible. If you want to see videos like this or projects in general early, be sure to check that out in the description. And with all of that being said, I'm gonna try to find a way out of this magic railroad place. I kinda have to use the bathroom and I can't find one. This is a dilemma.
Oops. Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.